It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry.
Go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.
Hello and welcome to the Windy City's finest on location with Mac and Perry. I'm Perry, he's Mac, and this is
Natalie.
Natalie. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. We feel very honored to be here with you in your studio space. This is awesome. And I'm super excited to just dive into some icebreaker games that we have. These are just fun facts that Mac and I found out, and we got two of them. So, shall we dive into the first one?
Okay.
Let's do it. It's super low stakes. So, our first question is on July 12th, 1886, the all-time recorded high in Medicine Hat was approximately 42 degrees Celsius, 47 degrees Celsius, 37 degrees Celsius, or 39 degrees Celsius. And we haven't worked in any like call a friend things, but if we need to, it might just be a guess. I don't know.
I'm going to use a strategy.
Okay, let's do it. Let's hear the strategy.
Oh, that would be giving it away.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair, yeah.
I'll share it with you later.
Yeah.
I will go with C.
C, 37 degrees Celsius? Unfortunately not. That is not what the research turned up. It was 42 degrees Celsius.
So much for my strategy.
I know. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay.
The oldest historic building in Medicine Hat is the Ewart-Duggan House, the Brown-Durand Residence, the Canadian Pacific Railway Station, or the Cecil Hotel.
A.
A, the Ewart-Duggan House, is correct. That's awesome. And it was built
the win.
apparently, maybe you know more, but the research that we did said it was built in 1887. I don't know if you know specific
I was
dates or
born
not.
the year prior.
Oh, okay, awesome. And I know that when we arrived,
Yeah.
you were actually telling us about a very nearby building. And I'm curious if you wanted to share anything on that, because I found it fascinating what you were telling us. But yeah.
Yeah, right next door is the Charlin Grocery, and it is one of the oldest homes in Medicine Hat. Oh, I correct that. It was also a groceteria.
Right.
And the Charlins owned it. And Mr. Charland, he lived there right up until he passed away. And his family, they kept it in the family. And it has been completely restored. It is now a short-term rental.
Right.
And the lovely couple that renovated it, they mixed old with new. So the kitchen is very modern, and yet they purchased antiques and furniture and textures to go in. And it's beautiful. And it's such a lovely place for someone who needs a short-term rental to just go in and, live there for a bit. It's completely furnished, and yeah.
I think that's so special to have those landmarks in the city, you know what I mean? And really kind of showing those roots. I think that's awesome. Yeah. I could ask a question. It might get into, the kind of artistic side of your practice, but it's like, has that inspired any part of your practice or even just your lifestyle?
When I find items that I can use in my artwork, I think about the history of them. I think about the owners. I think a little more,
Right.
and how they might have treasured them, and that I can bring them into my artwork. It's just a special feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, those were our trivia questions. So that's awesome. And I'm super excited to move on to another little mini game. And it's called This or That. Perfect example would be tea or coffee. And I know for myself, I would say tea. I don't know. It's just being part of my childhood. It's nostalgic for me. But others might say coffee. Do you have a preference between the two?
Well, because I never answered directly, latte,
Latte. I love it. Nice. Awesome.
coffee.
Yeah. Awesome. This or that. Theme park or museum?
Museum, absolutely.
Why?
Theme parks, I've never really had an interest, but I love art museums. I even went to a war museum in Madison, Wisconsin, which was so interesting. I went to the airplane museum that's in McMinnville. Oregon. And those aren't museums I would normally go to, but learning new things. If we stop learning, well, right? So I think I like the knowledge, and I like creativity. I went to MoMA in New York, and so interesting.
I love your comment about learning, lifelong learner. I think I'm one of those. And I also love your comments. What I think I'm hearing is that idea of travel.
When I was a kid, we went to a museum in Dayton, Ohio, and I think that was my first introduction. It also had, the Wright brothers, one of their planes was in this museum, and I just found it fascinating that it was in a place that I'd never been before. And I think that memory keeps me open to going to different types of museums and learning maybe something about the area. For example, in Medicine Hat, going to the Esplanade, you learn, and even going to an interpretive center, you learn about the area. And in a sense, that's a museum as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. I think we're going to move on to our main act here.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw these back in the hat. I also love that it's a hat. And I'm just going to move our tumbling towers here.
Okay.
Without tipping it over. And so each of these blocks has a number associated with it, tied to a question. I'm going to let you do the honors and go first.
Okay. I'm okay, I think.
You got it. Nice.
There it is.
Nice. 49.
Yes.
Let's double check what question correlates. 49.
Okay.
What's a trend you missed out on?
A trend. Oh my goodness. Without revealing my age. Oh, I don't. This isn't fair.
I know. No, that's
trend.
fair. Yeah. Or a trend that you took part in. We can pivot. We can be spontaneous.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
A trend. Okay, I'll go with this one. A trend from the 70s was wearing the widest legged jeans. We even called them elephant pants. But they weren't just wide, they were long. And they were filthy and ripped and ugly on the bottom. But with your platform shoes, you could kind of lessen that damage.
Right.
So yeah, that was a good one.
Nice. That's awesome. And is that something you could ever see yourself doing again? That style?
Well, no.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's very fair. I'm going to go for one of the middle ones, I think. You got to like test them, I think. There we go. 33. Let's see what question Carla.
I think it's coffee or tea.
No, it is. What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. Oh
Might be
my
a latte. I don't know.
No, it's terrible. I watch a little bit of reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you're alone.
Well, sometimes I will binge it.
I don't think you're alone.
No, but a lot of people don't know that about me.
That's fair. Well, thank you so much for sharing. What do you get out of it? Is it that kind of escape that you might find in fiction, or?
I think it's mindless, and I don't have to really think about it. I watch people interacting, and I think, oh my goodness, there's really that kind of relationship. It's mindless pretty much. When you're focused on something for a good period of time, like my artwork, it's a nice release. It's just a nice rest in between. And or if I'm stressed about something, just nothing. We all need that mindless. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that is all the time we have for this segment. So thank you so much for indulging us and playing these icebreaker games with us. And yeah, that's all the time we have for this segment. So thank you so much for tuning in, be it on the live stream or otherwise. This has been the Windy City's finest on location with Mac and Perry. I'm Perry, he's Mac, and this has been
Natalie,
and we will be right back.
Welcome to the Windy City's finest on location with Mac and Perry. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Natalie.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Natalie. So beforehand we had some icebreaker games. We got to know you a little bit about your personality, which was great. But for me, I'm really curious about your art. That's really why we're here. So I want to learn about you as an artist, and we're going to talk all about that. So yeah, maybe to start, just tell me about your art. What sort of art do you do?
Oh my goodness. I have been kind of coined as an eco-artist because I recycle as much as possible. I repurpose objects. I collect objects. Some of my works are considered to be sculpture because they are 3D and they are body shapes. Some of my artwork is on canvases, so it's 2D. It all depends on what I feel like doing. And using those items is the most important part of what I do.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about that. So this being an eco-artist, like, why is that important to you?
If I can save as many items as possible from going to the landfill, that is my purpose and that is my accomplishment. So the smaller items aren't always recycled. People's costume jewelry or parts of tools and parts of purses, which I do take apart and use what I can, and backpacks, maybe some zippers, hinges, saw blades. I use items that a lot are produced in this world, and they all end up in the landfill, and maybe they aren't as big as the larger ones, but they do amass to quite a bit. If you think of all the beads on a necklace, all of them, and people that work in garages and they have tools that parts can be used for something else. Some people do that. It's really no different. But I like to showcase them. I think that's the difference. But I like to save everything from the landfill, including the bodies as well, the mannequins.
Okay, mannequin bodies, not real bodies.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It becomes a different kind of interview
the cadaver
then.
art we're making. And was that something you did kind of all growing up? Was like always kind of repurposing items and collecting things? Or has that been more of a newer pursuit?
I recall doing a little bit of it growing up. I think my biggest influence was my mother would create Father Christmases, and she would do them just creatively. She didn't have a pattern, and she would be on the hunt for leather jackets. She would be looking for furs that were still usable, artificial and real, but she would create these, oh my goodness, these elegant Father Christmases and their robes and their gowns. And she would have recycled all of these materials and repurposed them. And then I started collecting my own things when I was teaching art. And I had bins and boxes and so many items.
Maybe describe, like some of the themes you explore in your art.
Oh, some of the themes. The themes that I they're sort of random. They come from memories. They come from events that have happened to other people. I cover a lot of milestones that some people go through in life, difficulties people go through in life, everyone's story that I can relate to, or something that's happened to me.
Do you see a piece, like something you're going to be working on, and say like, oh, this is really speaking to me, this certain emotion? Or do you kind of like have this emotion that you want to get out and you find that in the piece? I don't know if you have a direction you go.
It's funny because one piece in particular, it was on a mannequin. It is on a mannequin. It's downstairs. And I felt with the posture of the mannequin, with the way she was in a seated position. And I had a feeling from that mannequin that I'd felt that way. And I recalled a piece of literature that I wanted to celebrate on that piece for other people that may be feeling it as I had felt it when I had read that literature. So that can happen prior, but sometimes I'll start creating something and I'll think, oh my goodness, this is starting to look like I've got to have this on there. And other times I've been laying in bed at night, I will have prepped the canvas or the mannequin, and I'll jump up and I'll go, I know what I'm doing. And it's all different. I think I've just had it in my soul to be creative my whole life. When I was in high school, I taught myself how to do macrame, and I didn't follow a pattern. I didn't make the owls that you saw. I made these elaborate wall hangings that could hold a plant. And then I went on to make necklaces and bracelets, and I sold them in a local shop. And I was very shy. I don't know where I had the courage to do that, but I did it. I feel like I'm not just creating an art piece, but I'm creating an awareness. And the awareness also is that anyone can be creative in some way, whether you're, I don't know, even working on a car, you can be creative. Like, you tap into those resources that we have.
So since 2020, you've had your work featured in 50 exhibits in 8 different countries, and you've received 14 awards, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. How does that feel, having that kind of success? We'll call it success with your art.
Oh my goodness. It doesn't really seem real at times. Is it me? Pinch me? Is it real? I was very fortunate from the beginning to have a mentor, and he is a gallery owner in Calgary. Actually, the gallery is still online. It was in Eau Claire, and I was so fortunate that he encouraged me. He just gave me sort of the starting, right? And I had to do it on my own. But he said, enter as often as you can and make sure the exhibitions are themed in a way that supports what you're doing. And I would enter as many as I could. I did not expect to get accepted. I did not expect to win anything. And even in publications that I've been in, you apply for it, but you're not always selected. Sometimes there's hundreds of artists that have applied, and they picked me. And that humble part, Terry, my mentor, said, artists are very humble. It takes a lot for you to step out of that. And I'm thankful because I am, but I'm trying to step out and entering all those exhibitions. It's been rewarding. And I look at my artwork sometimes, what it looks like in that gallery, and is that really my piece? It is, but that's not my wall. You know, it's hard to describe. And that's why I try and encourage other artists to do it, because it gives you a feeling of satisfaction. It boosts your confidence. It makes you want to create more. An artist should share their work, because there's always someone that will appreciate it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, yeah.
I haven't had my own solo show, which is my goal. Mm-hmm. It's never been to amass this wealth. I want to have my own solo show, have people be there because my art is there, or they're curious about it, walk around, talk about my work. I just think that's reaching the top for me. Mm-hmm. And Terry, my mentor, he said to me, Natalie, he said, your work may not be for where you live. It may not be. I think you need to set your sights on New York, Paris, London. And I have, in a way. I haven't actually been in a brick and mortar, but I did have my work on the screen in New York. I did have my work in online galleries in London. And I did have my work. They have pop-up galleries over in Europe, and they rent a space, and they have video equipment and computer screens, and your work is projected on there, and they have people that come in and look at it. A little bit different. I believe they've done that since COVID, when all the galleries were closed. So I have had my work in Brussels and Amsterdam and Paris, and it's unbelievable when I see it, but my goal is to have more work there. Shipping costs are pretty expensive, and artists aren't rich. So I just have, and my pieces are big. But yeah, solo show is my goal.
Yeah, that would be a great goal. And yeah, I think that's a really good point, that I think that's something that's really great about the age that we live in.
Yeah.
Maybe if your art isn't for the place you're in necessarily, you do have those outlets that you can apply to those other places, and people can appreciate your art for what it is. Yeah, you have a whole world out there. So
You do.
yeah, I really hope that you definitely do
Thank
have
you.
a gallery in Paris or London
Yeah,
or something. That'd be
thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah. I guess kind of along those lines, something I was curious when you were talking about submitting your pieces. You're submitting these to some big art galleries, things like that. And on your website, you talked about how sometimes you would receive rejection letters. And I think that's a very natural, normal part of being an artist, that, artists do face a lot of rejection when you're putting yourself out there in a creative way. And so it's something I'm really curious about. That idea of those like lovely rejection letters. Tell me about that. Was it what made them lovely?
Oh my goodness. The words that they use. I think I finally understand that it's artists that are jurors, and they know how it feels. And when you receive a letter or an email that your work was rejected, it's kind of sandwiched and like report cards. Oh, you're lovely, and then, oh, thanks, you stay, Anyway, so one I remember in particular is I had applied to a gallery, and it's a prestigious award that you can receive for this. There's a lot of criteria, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to do it. Well, I received the nicest rejection. Oh my goodness, I cried, because it said your work has integrity, and it's high quality, and they used all these wonderful adjectives. And I thought, oh, I like that. And it said, however, we had many applicants and 4 jurors, and we aren't accepting your work at this time, but please apply again, and we look forward to seeing future work, and thank you for contributing to Canadian art. And oh my goodness, they don't want to discourage the artist, and I love that they do that. That's how we should all be. It shouldn't. You can really take it to heart, and I think because art is so emotional and creating it is emotional, I think rejection could be very emotional and maybe end what you're doing. But I like getting the rejections, not all the time, mind you, but it just reinforces that you're still okay, right? It's just this one, right?
Do you have any kind of advice for people who have that fear of rejection, what they could do to overcome that with their art?
I think we're all afraid of. I even have a piece that I call rejection, and it's not rejection as in not getting accepted into an exhibition, but the rejection part, it's a tough thing, and I think other people need to know that the art world is kind, and they're very supportive. And some people may not want to share, exactly what they do, but they'll give you enough tips. But I have found it's a positive place to be, and I'm not afraid to enter, because I have to remember my work may not be what that juror is looking for. That juror, perhaps their background is kind of focusing on something else. And it takes a while to accept that. I don't think enough people starting to do their art understand that. Your application, it's so important that the theme match your work. If it's something that is totally not appropriate for it, don't enter it. And that was an important thing that I try and keep in mind. Applying is a whole different learning curve as well. The whole journey is and I Google, I research, because I think having gone to university, I am able to do that. Not everyone can. A self-taught artist may not know to go that avenue, but other artists will help you, and they will, and they're so supportive. I just love that. It's a different world, and I'm glad I'm in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have one final question.
Okay.
It's a big one, but so when we were asking people, our artists, how has your artistic practice changed you as a person?
I've become more self-confident. I've become more aware of other people's feelings, trying to sympathize with them, and trying to understand the journey that they're going through. I understand myself a little bit better. Some of the pieces will tap into my memories, and I'll think of a time when I felt that way, and the piece, it'll reflect that. I'm thankful, and I'm proud, and I'm thankful that I'm able to do this. And I've met so many great people along the way, including this, meeting you. And yeah, the opportunities have been wonderful, and I got to stop being humble. That's my biggest thing, right? It's hard, but each day it gets better, and we could all use a boost in confidence and to know that we're good enough. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Yeah. That's a lovely answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess all the time we have for this segment. So yeah, thank you so much for chatting with me,
pleasure.
Natalie. This has been the Windy City's Finest on Location with Mac and Perry. I'm Mac. He's Perry. And this is
Natalie.
Welcome once again to the Windy City's Finest on Location with Mac and Perry. I'm Perry. He's Mac. And this is
Natalie.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for being here with us. And who is our friend? Does this piece have a name?
She does. Her name is Chard.
Chard. I love it. Awesome.
Chard.
Okay, so welcome, Chard. I love it. And yeah, this is our lovely little showcase segment with you. And so I'm super excited. And I just want to preface the segment by saying that Natalie here gave me the choice of picking a piece for this showcase. And I think that in of itself says a lot, because you're kind of including your audience.
I think I create for people because my pieces, I want them to create an awareness in others. And I always hope that someone will feel something, whether it's positive or negative. If I've evoked an emotion, then I'm a success. And you can't just create art for yourself. I call mine my journaling. And it is journaling. It's events and feelings, and that's what we do when we journal. And I just happen to put mine on artwork. And I like to share it with others because I hope that maybe I can help. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know other people experience those same feelings.
Oh, so many things in there resonate with me. I love that you know, the definition of success. I think that's such an important thing for people as artists, especially, to be able to do, because it's a non-linear journey. And so really defining success, and I love how you define it.
Thank you.
For yourself. And yeah, you've kind of spoken about, leading from a place of emotion. And I'm curious, may I ask what the emotion was for Chard? Can we go there?
This piece is on a dress form. And I thought, oh, she's going to have gold and have black, and I wanted the red to stand out. And as I was working with it, I worked with a new medium, and it's called lava paste. And I had never worked with it, but I'm always experimenting, buying different mediums, seeing what I could use. And so I put some on where I thought it should be, and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, I don't know if this works because it goes on light gray. However, when it hardens and dries, it is black and shiny, and believe it or not, when you shine a light on it, red, it's interesting. And when I looked at it, it looked almost like my piece between this piece of my favorite jacket that I took apart because I couldn't wear it any longer because it was starting to come apart. Just thought I'd add that. But it looks ripped and not, and then I thought the contrast between the beauty and the ripped, and it looked like it was burnt. And I looked at the lava paste here, and it looks rough, and I had these scissors, and I thought, I'm afraid of fire, and I have been my whole life. Sometimes when you get caught in that horrible, horrible event, they have to cut your clothing off, and you are charred. And I wanted to show the contrast of before and after. It became a little complex as I was working on it, but I think my fear came through, And it just seemed so obvious to me. And that's why it's called charred.
Wow, that's so much deeper than could even have ever imagined. That's amazing.
It's in here.
Yeah. And I appreciate the recycling, reusing
Thank
of
you.
the elements here. It sounds like there's a big element of play in your work. I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that, but that's something that I think I was hearing, you know?
I learned years ago, my mom said to me, I don't know if it's true. She said there's a culture in the world that if you make a mistake in something, if you're making a tapestry or a rug, it's good luck. And I used to share that with my students. And with me, it's good luck. And it is. And I look at it as an opportunity. If it doesn't work, you can paint over something always, or you can change it. I could use this medium and paint over it. There's always that option, right? And in this, it just happened to work. And I use it in a lot of my pieces now. It's getting hard to find. So maybe some other people do too.
Absolutely. No, I love that. One of the things that drew me to this piece were all the trinkets. And I have to imagine how much time it takes to source them and then also decide where they go. I imagine... Can you tell me about that process?
Oh my goodness. I kind of let my subconscious guide. I have many pieces. This piece I did run out of gold, so I had to put out the word if anyone had any. I checked the thrift shops and garage sales. My pieces, I think people are under the impression that I covered this with glue and then I put them on. I don't. I put on each piece and I put it on. I look for the perfect piece that'll fit, that works with it. It's very time consuming. It's not a quick piece to make by any means. And even the fabrics that I use, they are used ladies' tops or men's shirts that I have bought at Salvation Army or people have given to me, or even some of my own. And I rip them apart, and they provide the texture. Many art exhibitions, one of the criteria is that you have to use fabric. And I do. And I've learned along the way, hey, it works. So I use it in all of them.
No, I love that. I love that. I think earlier you mentioned, your studio maybe looking like a bit of a hoard, like you hoard these things.
I do.
But I also hear what you're saying about the kind of interruption of the flow when you do run out of something, but you don't necessarily know how much you need when you start a piece. But I think that a lot of artists, that idea of you got to stay organized, but your work is kind of chaotic, or your process is chaotic. And so I think there might be something in there. I don't know if you have more thoughts, but
I've had to learn there's no rules, and there aren't any rules, and you guide your own practice. For me, at first, I thought I have to only work on this and get it done, because why would I start something else? Well, I had learned that some artists have 3 or 4 paintings on the go at once, and I thought, you don't lose your creativity? I thought, well, I'll try it. So I have put some aside, including one behind me that's been aside for a while. I find that I have this great inspiration and idea, and then sometimes I'm kind of stuck. So then I'll start another one. But I found sometimes it's difficult to go back and sometimes not so much.
I know that behind us on the wall, over your left, I think there's a piece that you've mentioned, you have on your website and that you feel is important to share. And can you tell us about it?
I ran to Michael's, grabbed a canvas, I used my glue gun, I used whatever I had. And I thought, I'm just going to try. So I laid the pieces on first, which I don't do anymore. It's a plan, right? I planned it. And I created it, and I added this and that. And it was random. It really was. I didn't know what I was using, how it would work. But the feeling I got after was, that was kind of fun. So I went and bought more canvases, and I numbered them, and I just kept going along making these. And that was the absolute beginning. And it may not be my best work, but that's my baseline. That's where I started. And I think I've grown a little since then. And if I don't think I have, I look at that piece with the stuff from my junk drawer. And I've taught workshops on it. I I went into my granddaughter's school last year, and I taught kindergarten, grade 2 and grade 4 projects that they could do using recyclables. I really want to create an awareness in the schools as well. We need to do more of that.
And I love hearkening back to one of your comments earlier about how there's no rules, and I think that kids, given the chance, are like masters of that concept, you know. And so really empowering them to find their expression with pieces of junk and recycling things. And I think that's awesome. What would be your advice for somebody that sees something like this and wants to give it a try?
Go to your kitchen junk drawer. Or many people have deceased loved ones, and they have their old jewelry, costume jewelry. It's not expensive. Use those items. I've created remembrance pieces for people, and I've used doilies that elderly people have made and jewelry and items that were important to them. But you can use anything. You can use even when I did it with the kids, it was small toys that they put on or beads, or just do it. If you do it and you feel something positive from it, then you'll start doing more, and you'll grow in your own direction. People have said to me, I want to do that. And I go, well, you can't do this exact one, but I want to make that. And I go, well, you can't, because each item on it is unique, and you don't have the same vision as I had with it. But you can create your own with materials. And it's just do it. It's hard. It's hard to take that first step in anything. And you are creative. You may not think so, but we all have something creative in us.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful note to end off on. So thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure.
And this has been the Windy City's Finest on location with Mac and Perry. I'm Perry. He's Mac. And this has been
Natalie.
And Chard.
It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry.
Go life to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.